This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous good-looking friends. Ooh, look who's mad today. Harry and Meghan have put out a statement about yesterday's Time excerpt that was released for Tom Bower's new book called Betrayal: Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family. A much-anticipated book dropping on March 26. Harry and Meghan's spokesperson, aka Meghan, fired back a statement to People magazine stating, "Mr. Bower's commentary has long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. This is someone who has publicly stated the monarchy in fact depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life, language that speaks for itself." The spokesperson, Meghan, continued, "He has made a career out of constructing ever more elaborate theories about people he does not know and has never met. Those interested in facts will look elsewhere. Those seeking deranged conspiracy and melodrama know exactly where to find them." And I'm pretty sure that this bitch is referencing us. So here's where you know that there is evidence and truth of what's being written, because Harry and Meghan normally would have their lawyers all over this, but in this case, they have a spokesperson clap back and say that this is deranged conspiracy theory. You know what they say about conspiracy theories, right? But anyway, I want to go ahead and read this with you because I am really looking forward to this book dropping. And, going through this excerpt that was released yesterday, there are a couple comments that I want to add here because I do think even Tom Bower doesn't know the full story. Meghan's brainwash Harry, Camilla told a friend. Estranged from the royal family, with their finances dwindling and Netflix deal canceled, what next for Harry and Meghan? In his explosive new book, Tom Bower reveals how it all went wrong for the golden couple. "If you don't mind, get your finger out of my face," Meghan Markle snapped at William. The tea-time reconciliation meeting between the brothers and their wives had spun out of control. Sitting in the Cambridges' recently redecorated 20-room Kensington Palace apartment, soon after the Sussexes returned from their honeymoon in June 2018, Harry watched the confrontation escalate. William's dislike of Meghan had been obvious after his warning to Harry before their engagement. "It's gone too quickly," William had said about the speed of Harry's relationship with the American actress. William's suspicion of Meghan was echoed by his wife. While Meghan's certainty of purpose had seduced Harry, her talents had alarmed his brother and Catherine. Both knew Harry's problems. He had a damaged youth, confused by drink, drugs, and therapy after his mother's death, and had been unable to cement a balanced relationship with a woman. Both evidently saw Meghan as a threat rather than an ally. The Cambridges believed that Meghan was not reconciled to what was deemed her destiny in London. She, they thought, lamented Harry's unlikely chances of one day being king, just as she regretted the possibility that she would never be the queen. With Meghan's encouragement, Harry started to move beyond the palace's control. Instead of the likes of his colorless Uncle Edward, Harry refused any longer to accept his fate as the spare. William's original fears were soon realized. Meghan had become a divisive agent. To please her, Harry was ignoring his old friends. He even changed his telephone number without telling his family. The jovial lad about town became possessed by seeking revenge. Increasingly, his character mirrored Meghan's. Emotionally, he veered toward extremes. Simple dislikes became passionate hatred. "Meghan's brainwashed Harry," Camilla told a friend. 4 years ago, Revenge, my book about the Sussexes' war against the Windsors, exposed the truth about Meghan's past. It revealed how she had ditched her family, friends, and others to become famous. Simultaneously, the book traced her manipulation of past events to rewrite her history. The climax of her truth was her interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021. Since then, she has separated herself from Harry, except seemingly when a joint appearance would enrich her publicity. Meghan's self-promotion as Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex has become more sophisticated. Entrenched in California, her bid for commercial success relies on her truth, which others would say bears little resemblance to objective facts. No humiliation or criticism has crippled her breathtaking ambition. At the same time, Harry's troubles have mounted. Isolated from Britain, his charitable activities have become threadbare and his desperation noticeable to many. Permanently alienated from William and Catherine, Harry was reportedly stunned by his brother's ferocious reaction to revelations about the man now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and his relationship with the convicted paedophile Sleazy E. The unpredicted and unimagined humiliation of Andrew shocked Harry. Rightly, Harry fears that the future King William could remove all the Sussex's titles and effectively banish him from Britain. Whether Meghan understands the potential consequences of any deliberate aggravation of the Prince and Princess of Wales remains to be seen. At the end of January 2025, Netflix had a preview launch in Los Angeles for the network's new season, including Meghan's imminent series With Love, Meghan. To remind the public about her series, she reemerged as a surprise guest at actress Kerry Washington's 48th birthday party. The videos and smiling photos posted the following day of Meghan at the small party suggested that she had brushed aside the critics. As usual, she looked great, but her trolls were remorseless. Some claim she had gatecrashed the party and was kicked out. The carping was an inauspicious curtain raiser to Netflix's launch of the 2025 season 4 days later in the Egyptian theater. Meghan had every reason to be fearful. Not only did her series fail to feature in Netflix's glossy brochure, but Bella Bajaria, the Netflix head of content, did not even mention Meghan in her speech. Instead, the comedian John Mulaney offered a jaw-dropping surprise. After uttering a mocking aside about the dismal ratings registered for Harry's Polo series, ranked by Netflix as number 3,436, Mulaney mentioned his own talk show series commissioned by the streaming service. "This is a fun experiment," Mulaney said about his series. "Not since Harry and Meghan has Netflix given more money to someone without a specific plan." The audience roared. Panic gripped the Sussex's home. Meghan's publicist suggested that the couple head down to Los Angeles to be seen comforting the victims of the widespread and devastating wildfires that had gripped the region. A cameraman from Archewell, their charitable organization, was waiting for their arrival at a soup kitchen in Pasadena set up to help a group of homeless people. After recording a video of her listening and hugging victims, the scene was posted that day by publicists to Meghan's 1.6 million Instagram followers. Instead of getting credit for her efforts, Meghan was mocked as an attention-seeking pseudo-royal. Hollywood filmmaker Justine Bateman carped online, "Meghan Markle and Harry are no better than ambulance chasers. What a repulsive photo op they achieved. They're touring the damage? Are they politicians now? They don't live here. They're tourists. Disaster tourists." Thousands shared Bateman's posts, followed by her next message awarding the couple a gold medal in their very aggressive Victim Olympics campaign. Every attempt to appear genuine rebounded. Even President Trump could not resist taunting the Duchess. On February 8th, he was asked by the New York Post whether he would deport Harry if he had inaccurately completed his visa application. "I don't want to do that," replied the president. "I'll leave him alone. He's got enough problems with his wife. She's terrible." Meghan needed a global stage for genuine admiration and cheering fans. To her good fortune, Harry agreed that she could star in the Invictus Games, which he was about to open in Canada. Just before flying up to Vancouver in a private jet, she alerted her Instagram followers. "How should we address them?" the Canadian organizers asked. "Meghan insists on ma'am, and Harry should be called sir," replied Nick Booth, the chief executive of the Games. Booth had been parachuted into the post after the dismissal of 2 Canadian executives. Both had resented the pushy Sussexes, not least their exorbitant expenses for security, accommodation, and a private jet. Unlike Harry's own financial contributions to the Sentabali charity, his lifestyle expenses for Invictus were financed by government and corporate funding of the games. Booth was classed as a sycophant by the ousted executives. As Harry's doorkeeper, Booth used the prince, alias an attractive asset, as a fundraiser to secure more money to arrange TV coverage and tilt the media's focus firmly towards the glamour of Harry and Meghan. In the opinion of the departed Canadian executives, Meghan was a distraction from the injured veterans. She's bling, not rehabilitation, protested one of the men. Harry can't decide whether Invictus should be styled on the Olympics or a more intimate Warriors game embracing the military family. Caught halfway, they warned the competition would once again be ignored by the media after the star-studded opening pop concert at the BC Place Stadium. "We need bigger ambitions to bring in the audience," they said. Their criticism was echoed by Dominic Reed, the longtime head of the Invictus Foundation. Past coverage, admitted Reed, had been disappointing. He acknowledged that the media totally ignored the competitive aspect of the event. Reed blamed the Invictus leaders for allowing the games to become the Harry and Meghan show, and yet Nick Booth, with Harry's encouragement, did not seem concerned. To get global attention, Booth was focused on the opening ceremony. On February 8, 2025, Katy Perry performed for 30,000 ecstatic fans at BC Place. Before her appearance, about 500 competitors from 23 countries had paraded across the venue, preceded and followed by 80 Canadian Navy bandsmen and 90 Highland Pipers. Few of the cheering audience noticed that 97% of the competitors were walking. Only a handful of the sportsmen were pushed in wheelchairs. Hardly any were limbless. The fans had come to see Katy Perry. For them, the Games was a music spectacular, not a bond between the nation and its armed forces. Watching the parade from midway up the tier were Harry and Meghan. They had arrived at the stadium by car from their hotel's penthouse suite across the street and were then transferred to an electric golf cart. Filmed by an Archewell cameraman, they were driven through an underground passage lined with hundreds of veterans and volunteers cheering, "Harry, Harry!" The video of the orchestrated welcome was posted on Meghan's Instagram feed. Unexpectedly, more videos about the Sussexes in Vancouver were filtered through her curated Instagram account. In one video, Meghan thanked the Indigenous peoples for their hospitality on their sacred land. In another, the Sussexes met a group of children. Other videos revealed her outfits: Hermes, Ralph Lauren, Altuzarra. Those were the prelude to the Sussexes' sudden appearance opposite the media box in the stadium. The Meghan Games had been launched. Sitting in full view of the audience, the Sussexes were conscious that every move was carefully scrutinized by the bank of manned long-distance camera lenses. As Harry attentively watched the parade, Meghan shifted to tilt her head onto his shoulder. Then she held his hand. Beyond her permanent smile, her eyes betrayed a fear of staleness. She needed to inject drama for the cameras. She kissed her prince, one kiss on his face, and then, as Harry rose to make his speech, she also stood up and, with her hands cupped around his face, plonked a kiss on his lips. In what one observer called her limpet cling, she struck a besotted pose as a gesture of ownership that speaks of enduring bonding. The 7th Invictus Games was opening just as Canada had been plunged into a trade war with America. Canadians were outraged by President Trump's bid to seize their country as the 51st state. After reading Trump's denunciation of Meghan as terrible, Harry could not resist retaliating. Hailing the competitors' courage, values, and humanity, he saluted the Invictus spirit of unity in a moment of difficulty and division when there is no shortage of crises, no absence of uncertainty, no lack of weak moral character in the world. Canadians were doubly grateful for the support of a member of the royal family. The prince loved the rapturous applause. Harry assumed he had recovered the spotlight. The following day, the true nature of the games was revealed. Most of Canada's media ignored the event and Harry's speech. The focus was on Meghan. She had stolen Harry's moment. At the opening wheelchair basketball match between Nigeria and the United States at the Vancouver Convention Center, the mood was sullen. Merely 43 ticket-buying spectators sat morosely together in a hall fitted with seats for more than 2,000 people. On the other side of the court, about 100 people brought in by the organizers were corralled to surround the Sussexes when they eventually arrived. The edited TV pictures would suggest that the hall was full. Among the guests was the Nigerian Air Vice Marshal, Abdimi Timothy Marquis. In return for arranging the Sussexes' successful visit to Nigeria the previous year, Marquis expected to be warmly welcomed by the couple and for Harry to nominate his nation as the venue for the 2029 Games. Marquis was downhearted. Without explanation, Nigeria's best basketball players and their coach had been denied entry visas by the Canadian government.
Lashing out at Canada, the West African nation says its highest-ranking military official and members of the country's Invictus Games team were denied visas. This comes as Canada has tightened up border rules in recent months. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin has been looking into this story. Geneviève, what is Nigeria saying?
Well, Heather, Nigerian officials condemned Canada's decision to deny visas using harsh words, including those from the National Security Advisor, who are getting a lot of play there in Nigeria. We can listen to what he said.
Thank you for the courage to say that Canada denied you. They can go to hell.
What prompted this is a speech from the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. He said he and half his delegation were denied entry to Canada to take part in Invictus Games events in British Columbia to honor war veterans. Here's what he had to say.
So the competition is ongoing with half players there and half back here. It's really very disappointing.
Musa also referred to a visit by the Duke of Sussex to Nigeria just last year, where Prince Harry, who founded the event, promoted the Invictus Games. Canada's bid to beef up border security has been in the spotlight as of late, but what happened in this case, what may have led to visas being turned down, is not quite clear yet. Canada's High Commission in Nigeria said in an online post that it had seen media reports about this, but refused to comment, citing privacy reasons. Government officials in Nigeria also said that what happened is disrespectful to the entire country. Heather.
Geneviève, thank
In an uncanny silence, the 8-man Nigerian scratch squad wheeled themselves onto the court. They faced 22 professionally trained Americans. While 2 men in the Nigerian team had lost a leg, none of the Americans were limbless. All were apparently suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Throughout the game, there was barely a murmur from the spectators. Halfway through the match, the Sussexes slipped into their seats. Harry and Meghan's presence at the game was the day's media photo opportunity. 9 zoom lenses focused on the Sussexes' tightly controlled narrative. The couple clapped silently. Meghan stared lovingly at Harry, and the prince watched the slow match intently. Nearby, a vetted TV station recorded them on a tight lens. 10 minutes after their arrival, the whistle blew. The Americans had trounced the Nigerians 24-0. There were no cheers. The American team wheeled themselves off the court into a secluded area, and effortlessly, they all got up and walked away. None of them appeared to be physically injured. After the basketball players disappeared, the Sussexes posed for selfies with the competitors' families. 10 minutes later, Meghan and Harry returned to their penthouse suite. Her staff were feeding Instagram with shots of Meghan walking hand in hand with Harry, hugging veterans' wives, and looking soulfully at a wheelchair-bound Nigerian. Instantly, all her labeled clothes were linked to websites. Across the street from the Sussex's hotel, the competitors in the empty hangars knew that the world was not interested in them. Subject to the Sussex's PR machine, the media chose not to reveal the truth. That Invictus's 2,000 yellow-shirted volunteers around the deserted convention center outnumbered paying spectators by about 20 to 1. Just one middle-aged Italian veteran in a wheelchair reappeared constantly, pushing himself around the vast canteen. He was surrounded by 1,200 members of the competitors' families, all enjoying free food twice daily. "Bring on Invictus Birmingham 2027," Harry shouted days later at the game's closing ceremony beside Justin Trudeau. A few months later, in autumn 2025, the Sussexes faced a harsh reality. The foreign tours and the Invictus competition had been lucrative, yet they were fast running out of money. With high security costs, they needed every year at least $3 million after paying tax to survive. The Netflix and Spotify contracts had come to an end. Both Sussexes relied on a dribble of money from Harry's occasional speeches and Meghan's endorsement of fashion brands. No further announcement had been issued about the sale of Meghan's as-ever whatever products. Profits were assumed to be dire, yet a leak suggested that Meghan had sold nearly 1 million pots of jam and produced profits of $30 million. Few thought that was credible, not least because her office never confirmed the report. Indeed, it later transpired that vast amounts of unsold as-ever products were spilling out of Netflix's headquarters. Her second series was ranked 1,016th in Netflix's most popular shows. Just 2 million watched over 6 months, a show described by one critic as so boring, so contrived, so effortlessly whimsical. Among the Sussexes' costly failures they realized during 2025 was the Archewell Foundation, established by the couple in 2020. Having failed to raise any new donations, the accounts filed in December 2025 revealed its income had fallen from $5.3 million to just $2.1 million. That donation, a historic commitment, which would not be renewed. More startling, Archewell gave away just $1.2 million, mostly in small $27,500 donations, but its expenses were $3.9 million. There was no explanation of how the Sussexes spent any of that money. With no substantial donations due in 2026 and with $8 million in the bank, the Sussexes decided to wrap up their charitable activities, renaming the Archewell Foundation as Archewell Philanthropies. The Sussexes transferred their whole campaign to an existing group, Parents Together. Naturally, the Sussexes spun their defeat as a success. The change would broaden their global philanthropic efforts for meaningful reach and maximum impact. In reality, they seemed to many to be abandoning philanthropy, their core purpose, even if it was financed by others. The closure on the eve of Christmas appeared carefully calibrated to conceal their distress. While announcing the dismissal of a slew of junior staff, they also lost 2 key employees: Archewell's executive director, James Holt, who had been in post for 5 years, and Meredith Maines, their media spokeswoman. Meredith was the 11th publicist to leave in 5 years. Liam Maguire, based in London, would in future manage their media operation. To Americans, that appeared bizarre. There was an 8-hour time difference between London and Los Angeles, except that behind the smokescreen praising their success, the Sussexes had initiated a plan conceived months earlier to salvage their finances and reputations. The Sussexes aimed for nothing less than to be reinstated in London by the King as trusted members of the royal family. The vehicle for their triumphant return would be the Invictus Games, to be held in July 2027 in Birmingham. From the outset, Harry had plotted for the King to open the Games as the backdrop for Meghan, accompanied by their children, to dominate the media. But in choosing Birmingham, Harry had unwittingly exposed himself to unexpected controversy, the toxic reality of a city in turmoil, mired in threats of protests. Among the 22 countries invited to compete in Birmingham was Israel. Inevitably, their small team would be drawn from former members of the Israel Defense Forces injured fighting Hamas and Hezbollah in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. Could the monarch allow himself to be embroiled in the inevitable protests after the negative press the royal family had suffered over the preceding months and years? Considering all the damning words and lies spoken and written by the Sussexes against the royal family since 2021, and the enormous damage caused by the Sussexes' exploitation of their royal titles, the chance of the king irritating the Prince and Princess of Wales to please the Sussexes in spring 2026 remote. For the king to publicly meet his son and his troublemaking daughter-in-law, both guilty of betraying the royal family, is a gamble with little upside. The feud embroiling them is far from resolution, and it remains to be seen what damage the 2027 Invictus Games will inflict on an already fragile family. Oh dear, this is about to get really messy on March 26th. Who's looking forward to this? Now, I'll give Tom Bauer credit. He was there at Invictus Games, so I will trust the information of him reporting about what happened at Invictus Games as accurate. However, you can tell that a lot of this writing is coming from articles and media that has been out there. Like, James Holt didn't leave Archewell. We saw him in Jordan with Harry and Meghan. So he's obviously still there, and he's obviously left and fled the United States because of all the stuff that's going on with Archewell Fugazi Public Charity, now Archewell Fugazi Philanthropies. There's a reason why Harry and Meghan had to shut down this operation, and I think we all know why. So we're just going to have to wait and see, and you bet we're going to be talking about it. But what do you guys think so far? Are you excited to see what Tom Bauer comes out with next? Definitely leave your thoughts below. And as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.